Welcome back to Psychic Medium, the podcast with your lovely friends, Kelly, the spiritual messenger, and Ken, the ruin walker. Hi, Kelly.
Hello, my friend. Hello. Did you like my action?
I did. It made me laugh a little bit. I got so we can see each other, and we don't have one of those clip things like in the movies. But that's what Kelly did, and I'm like, it startled me, and I almost laughed. But it was good. It gave me a little extra in the intro.
Yeah, because it does the countdown. So I see the 5, 4, 3. So I wanted to just go. Anyway.
Yep.
Don't make me.
Action.
Yeah.
We hope that you enjoyed our last little foray of Psychic Medium, the podcast, talking about the retreat and what's going to happen there. We're very excited about it, and be on the lookout for more info. Today, we're going to talk about, drum roll, please. I'm going to let Kelly introduce it. Drum roll. And we're going to talk about...
When are you the student and when are you the teacher?
Confucius says. Yeah, I like it. What hit it. Go. Take us on the road.
First of all, I need the What Would Kelly and Ken Do t-shirt on right now.
I know you do. I know. Maybe that will be part of what we give away at the retreat.
I think we need to add that to our to-do list. Anyway, so I came up with the topic for this podcast. Most of you know me by now, and I do just as much teaching as I do reading. And I've also learned that, people always go, well, okay, now that you're the teacher, you know everything. Well, no, I don't. No, I do not. I am just as much the student as I am the teacher. I learn so much every day. I learn from the readings I do. I go, oh, that's something new. I'm always saying that. Or, oh, I just learned something new today. I love having those experiences, and my aha moments still happen for me. And I learn from you all the time, Ken, when we work together. Oh, that's a different way I could do that. Oh my gosh, that's amazing. So
I gotcha.
Right? And I love that collaboration when we work together because we teach and we grow with one another. So I've come to this space of going, okay, we can be the teacher and the student. There's a time and a place for both, because that moment that you think you know everything, you know fucking nothing.
Yeah. I think it's a really interesting topic, because what happened for me was a couple of things. One, it brought up imposter syndrome, which I think many people face, not just in spiritual circles, but just in everyday reality.
And we haven't really talked about that a lot yet, but I'm so glad that you brought that up. This is going to be a good one to talk about today.
Yeah, I like it. In fact, I was listening to a speech given. I was on TikTok, but the speech was given at. I'll have to go back and find it. But anyway, the woman giving the speech spoke about the fact that imposter syndrome is a made-up thing that is one of the links in the chain that help us stay down.
Mm-hmm.
And so we don't really have it, but we're told and conditioned that we can't be the thing. So we then, label it was so fascinating, label ourselves as being, imposters. But part of the thing was, it had to do with the conversation in her speech had to do with women, and how it was just one more way to keep women down was calling them, or developing this idea of imposter syndrome,
mm-hmm.
and doubting yourself. And I thought it was pretty fascinating and appropriate for the time that we live in. But so imposter syndrome was one.
Mm-hmm.
And my other thought was, for me personally, I've resisted for so long the idea of guru and what can happen in that power dynamic of teacher and student. And
Mm.
which is why I mean, many of you uh, might know that if I work one-on-one with somebody, it's once a month for a year, and it's generally on the runes. Um, but I also do it with people developing just their whole spirituality and in shamanic circles. And part of the thing about it is I resisted doing that for a very long time because I didn't want to have to navigate and negotiate that power dynamic. And I didn't want people to become too attached, or I didn't want to be the one and only thing for them. So I always kind of say I facilitate a class, or if I facilitate people's introduction to themselves. Um, and uh, and so those were the two things that kind of came up for me when you initially brought up the student teacher idea for the show.
I love that. I love that. I actually talk about imposter syndrome quite a bit. So in sessions, because a lot of people I work with are like, I feel like I have imposter syndrome, and it's an amazing thing because it's not talked about a lot, but so many of us have it.
Hmm.
And there's even moments I'm like, I can't, what am I doing? I can't do this. And he looks at me, he's like, what are you talking about? You are doing it. And I'm like, oh, yeah, you're right. Okay, I've got this. And it's just once in a while we get hit with those waves of it, even though, we've both done this so long. But I still have it. I'll speak for myself here. There's moments I still have to check myself. And part of me, I feel like, okay, I'm keeping myself humble in that sense as well. But it is a difficult thing to work through. And I cannot remember. I feel like it was Oprah. I feel like it was Oprah. I'm not looking at this,
I love
but
Oprah.
I love Oprah too. And you get a card. You get anyway. Um,
Right?
but but she was talking about imposter syndrome, and that she, has had it for years. And she said she's talked to all these amazing, great men and women, throughout her career, and and she said you would be surprised how many of them have talked about having imposter syndrome. That all the greats do. And it was kind of mind blowing to me. And I did a little research. I'm like, shit, you know what? There's a lot of talk about it, but you don't realize it when you're sitting in it.
You know what? That's a really interesting um, idea, right? Um, because this is how I work, and I would like to actually know. We're going to look up while we're doing this what the definition of imposter is. Um, it is a person who pretends to be someone else in order to deceive others, especially for fraudulent gain. So let's break that down. Because a person who pretends to be someone else, if you are just you, you're not pretending to be the Dalai Lama, or you're
Right?
not pretending to be Oprah, then
Yes.
imposter doesn't even apply to what you're feeling.
Yeah,
And then,
it's true.
yeah, crazy. I hadn't thought about doing this until just now. And then the other part is in order to deceive others, especially for fraudulent gain. Well, our intention is just to be us. Our intention is to be uh, me fully. So
Yes.
I'm not pretending to be me. I am me, and I'm not
Hmm.
trying to deceive anybody. So why the fuck are we talking about imposter anymore? You
You
know what
got a
I
good
mean? Like,
point. Good point. Yeah.
it's crazy because I going back to like actually what the word means is, I'm not pretending to be anyone.
No, you're not. What's funny is people hear me say this constantly. And if you've ever had a reading with me, you've probably heard me say this. I'm like, look, I'm not a therapist and I'm not a doctor. I just know and see shit.
Yeah. Yes.
I know, fail, see shit. And I'll be the first one to,
Yeah.
and it's, so you're absolutely right. That definition really doesn't hold much value here.
Yeah. So we can kick that thing to the curb now.
Yeah.
Because I can guarantee you, anybody listening, when they think about imposter syndrome, never thought about it in terms of them trying to be someone else.
Yeah.
No, I'm just being me.
Yes.
So everyone listening, get rid of the imposter syndrome idea out the door. Out the door, goodbye. Done.
Yes.
Yes. God, I think we just solved one of the world's problems.
Yeah. We are
Yeah,
so wise.
we are. Yeah, I mean, like this is one of the deepest and most profound podcasts ever.
It is. It is. And
Um,
one thing I will say really quick about you and I,
yeah,
and one thing I love, you and I can say this without even, second guessing myself in any way, shape, or form. You and I are very authentically us in our work.
yeah,
Very, very authentically us. Which you kind of like what you see is what you get. This is who we are. This isn't something we are during our work hours. This is who we are as people.
yeah,
And
yes.
that's my very favorite part of you. There's no smoke and mirrors. There's no illusions of who it's very raw, and I love that. That is my favorite part about our partnership.
Thank you. Yeah, same Z's. I think so that brings up something for me in terms of labeling,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because I
Mm-hmm.
resisted it forever until I realized if I just absorb whatever the label is, let it pass through me like lunch, and then it will nourish me, and I then don't have to resist it anymore. But maybe that's where people feel the imposter coming from, is there's an idea of, which we have to break down. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, if you're a psychic medium, you look like John Edward, or you do the things that Therese Caputo does, like the people that we see on TV, or like Chip Coffey, or like
Yeah.
whomever else. Like, well, of course you're not that person, and you're not pretending to be that person. You're just using words to describe what you do. So don't use
Yes.
words to maybe don't use the words to impose a picture. Just use them to describe what you do, and that might help also shift some things for people who have that imposter syndrome feeling,
Mm-hmm.
especially when it comes to using their abilities and then talking about their abilities.
I like that. Well said.
Yeah. Okay. Now, for you,
Mm-hmm.
how do you balance and how do you perceive student teacher for yourself? And let me say this first. Sometimes I feel like I leave myself open to being more of a coach than the student slash teacher.
Yeah.
But maybe that's just because that's where the word I feel more comfortable with. But how do you, because then I also, I still learn from let me back up. I learn from every reading I give.
Yes. Same.
So I might be teaching, or I might be coaching somebody, but if I'm doing it being spirit led or spirit driven, I'm learning at the same
Mm-hmm.
time I'm teaching.
Very
Because
much so. Very much so.
yeah. How do you see? What are your experiences with that?
Basically the same. I'm always, every reading is showing me something new. I'm constantly learning something. And this is what I love too, is if someone I'm working with comes to me with a question and I don't know the answer, well, I'm going to go do the homework to figure it out, to learn it so I can provide that answer to that person and also add that to my toolbox. I'm
Yeah,
always adding things to my toolbox. And so, like I said, it's always a process. And one thing you need to remember is just because I have, we have reached a point in our spiritual gifts that we're very comfortable in them, we're very fluid in them. We do this for a living. That doesn't mean we're not still growing. It
yeah,
doesn't mean we're not still expanding. And to expand and to grow, we learn more, we become more, we shift more. And so we are always going to be the student and the teacher. That's not going to change.
yeah. I think too. If someone really only says in this instance, I'm the teacher and nothing else is possible, then you shut down the transfer of energy, maybe is a good way to put it,
Mhm.
the dance between you and the person that you're interacting with, um, which I hadn't really um, thought about before. But let me, well, think about it this way. Some of the worst classes you've ever been to, I can guarantee, were where the teacher didn't listen to anybody in the room and just, like, someone might have raised their hand and asked a question, but the teacher didn't deal with the question. The
Mhm.
teacher didn't ask follow-up questions. The teacher didn't pay attention to the fact that 5 out of the 10 people in class had a dumb look on their face, like they were not dumb, but like dazed and confused, like, I'm not following you. But the teacher kept going anyway.
Yeah.
So
Agreed.
as in in the dynamic of teacher and student, yes, the teacher is the one who's kind of in control and delivering information, but the teacher is a student of um, the process of education and communication.
Oh,
And
it's
that's
true.
very real time,
Mhm.
on the job application.
Well, very much so. And I've talked about this in the past. Like I had to be the student for a long time, and I had to learn it all, and I had to go through self. I'm pretty much self-taught. I had to learn a lot of how my gifts work. I had to go through the processes. I was very much so the student for many, many years, and gathering and collecting and getting everything I needed to even be able to become the mentor slash teacher. And it's funny, the only reason why I teach and mentor now is because I believe that is part of my soul's contract.
Hmm.
And I believe that that is part of what I am here to do. But I also teach because I love to share those learnings, the things that I had to learn the hard way with others so they can grow, because I truly believe in the whole fiber of my being that I am meant to teach others to help heal humanity. I
Agreed.
firmly believe that for me. And people ask me all the time, why are you teaching? Why are you training new mediums? And why are you training psychics? And you're giving up your job security. And I kind of just have to laugh and go, the hell I am. There's not enough of us healers to go around right now.
No.
And I truly believe that this is my part in helping to heal humanity.
Yeah, I agree. Um, that's a whole suitcase
Yes, it is.
of um, things to unpack to even get to the point where you can say that. So for me, it would be because, like, of course, in that suitcase, we had to deal with imposter syndrome.
Yep.
We have to deal then with also um, overcoming the programming our brain tells us when we say things like you just said.
Mhm.
I'm here, and part of my soul's purpose is to do this. I know that if some of us were to say that, we would feel the imposter syndrome. We would feel like like the brain would take over and say, "You just think you're special." You know what I mean? Like I
Yeah.
can see all
Yes.
these things like kick off. So
Yes.
all of and why I'm saying this is like because you've had to work through all of that, and we continue to have to from time to
Yeah.
time. It all depends on how out of alignment I am with food and sleep, as to uh, how much that brain takes over. But um, yeah, no, I love that. I think you're absolutely right. I also think too that um, when people ask you, I find it fascinating that people are like, "You're gonna, train yourself out of a job." Great, because the more people that are going to be doing this, the more people that are aware. If I'm
Mhm.
if I'm leaving them or giving them the appropriate tools and I'm helping them guide them to being really a more self-aware, self-responsible, um,
Yeah.
self-confident person, then that changes everyone around that one person.
Absolutely
So,
does. And yeah,
and it's a shift from the mindset of one to many.
very true. Very true. And, it took me many years to be able to say what I said a few minutes ago.
Hmm.
It was a process for me. It was definitely a process for me. And I started realizing more and more in my workings that that was being pushed towards me. And I had a dear psychic friend tell me years and years ago, "You're going to teach one day and mentor." And I laughed at her. I'm like, "Yeah, that shit ain't happening." And then I had to eat crow, years ago and call and go, "Hey, guess what?" You know,
Yeah.
but it's it's not something I sat out to do. I mean, if you would have asked me if this was something I'd be doing, like I said, I would have laughed at you. No, I'm good, thanks.
Yeah.
But it found me, and I had to realize that that was my purpose. But it did take me a long time to get into this role. It wasn't something that I just created overnight and went, okay. You know,
Yeah.
it it's a process to learn. It's a process to grow.
Yeah. Absolutely. Um, hmm. I pulled a card from the Whispering Woods deck, just because it's my favorite. It says patience. Everything can be accomplished at nature's pace.
Mm.
So I'm gonna expand on that. I believe that there was a process where if we were young and able-bodied, we worked. But once you became unable to do that, you then taught and you took care of and you cared for while the people who went to work and could work did. So there is a process that I think we go through as humans, and I think that um, a lot of us feel it when we get into our 40s and 50s, that we should be shifting out of the I need to be on top of the ladder, I need to be on top of the game on all of that, into more of a teaching and coaching role. And because that's
Mhm.
not, we don't see those, oh, maybe I shouldn't say that. In general, there is not a value placed upon the knowledge base of those older people in our society. And at the moment, I think it's really because technology moves so quickly that, to accomplish anything, kids have to, they're way more on top of it than we are. Like they could do half the shit I do in a third of the time that it takes me, but with technology. But I think that's where we're slightly losing a space in our culture for the elder. And
Mhm.
that's where, like what you and I are doing, yeah, we've done this stuff and we've done readings and we've done all this and we began to teach, and now coming into a space of coaching and really working with people is the next step. I have pushed it off for years, and I'm just absorbing it, right? This
Yeah.
idea of working with men in smaller men's groups. And I was just told I had a, a little not little, I had a reading the other day. I stopped by to talk to our friend Jennifer, because she's going to be teaching at one of the retreats I'm doing this summer here in Utah, and we ended up doing a reading for me, and she said, "I see you working with like small groups and like men," and I was like, I mouthed men the minute she did it, and I was like, I've been really refusing to do
Hmm.
this,
Yeah.
and because it's going to make me unpack a whole bunch of suitcases that I thought I gave to DI, but they're still here. I gave maybe not DI, I gave to the whatever anyone else would think of the oh my
The good.
gosh, Goodwill. Thank you. I donated those suitcases, but now they're back. Um, so you never stop being a teacher and a student,
Hmm.
ever.
True.
Uh, uh, if you did, then you would stop evolving. You would stop growing.
Exactly it. That's exactly it. And even though, like I just said, like I'm kind of in that. I still love to read. I love to teach. I love to do all the things I do. But
Hmm.
I'm also still learning. I still am very much so a student.
Um, anything else to add to our discussion today before we wrap things up?
No, I feel like it's just be very, open with the concept of like the student, the teacher, the mentor. Like you don't, and again, those labels don't have to exist, but just realizing that what space you're in is okay. You're always going to be in one of those spaces, no matter what you do, and no matter what walk of life, and no matter what space you're in, you're going to be either the student or the teacher. And it doesn't have to be in spiritual, practice. It's in everything.
Yeah.
So embrace it.
Yeah. I think the one, I love that. And I think the one thing I would add for myself onto this is try and be aware of what you think you should be doing and what punishment you should give yourself if you're not being as humble as you think you're supposed to be, right?
Mm.
Like you start
Mm-hmm.
to well, I'm a teacher, I can't do anything, but then like to it's actually not even about being humble, but that's probably the first place we're going to go is I'm not
Mm-hmm.
being humble enough. So then you like start, that whole cycle of tearing it down instead of like I it's not about being humble, it's about being open to this partnership where we're exchanging information and I'm the one who's coaching or doing the majority of it.
Yes.
Um, so be I guess what I'm saying is be aware of the pattern that you drop into when you're in teacher or student, and be aware that, and just start looking at the threads of behavior, the patterns of behavior, the expectations that you have surrounding those two words and that dynamic, because
Mm-hmm.
you're going to find things in there that you don't believe but that you just regurgitate.
Mm-hmm. Very much so.
Yeah, break it down like we did Imposter.
Yeah,
I love it.
I do love that. Look, like I said, we're just so wise today.
Yeah, yeah. I'm a,
That's
I'm a
enough brain
wise
power.
ass mostly.
Oh, that's very true. That's
Yeah,
just too much. That's enough brain work for me today. I'm good.
I know you're done. You're like off for the rest of the day,
I am. Got
which
gardening
is
to do,
great.
man.
Yeah, go. Yeah, go. Be outside, get some sun. Yeah, I need some tan on this really pale body.
Yeah, I was telling Tati that. I'm like, because tan chunk looks so much better than white chunk.
It does. It does.
So,
Yes, I
yeah.
have my little farmer's tan going, so we're good.
Same. I actually had a tank top and shorts on the other day to try to like blend out the colors, but I
Yep.
don't know if any of y'all know this. It's like the last year I'm constantly cold. So unless it's like here's me in my heating blanket as we speak. But if it's like 75 or over, then I'm okay to like come out of my heating blanket space. So it's fine.
Yeah. Ooh. Yeah. Maybe we need to have a retreat in Mexico in the winter.
Right?
Mexico
Yeah.
retreat in the winter. That'd be
Yeah.
great.
I think that'd be great. I think I'm still trying to acclimate to losing my insulation. I think that's why I'm just always like,
Yeah, I know. Yeah, yes. Yeah,
it
it's
happens.
different.
But
Yeah. Yeah.
so layer up.
Layer. Yeah. Oh, thanks for hanging out with me today. Thanks for the great topic of student teacher and
Yes.
exploring
Yes.
that with me, being open to the exploration of it. I appreciate it.
Hmm. Yes.
Yeah.
I always love my time with you. And again, always learn something new, even
Yep.
in our podcasts.
Absolutely.
Love it.
All right. Well, everyone listening, thanks for listening. And we appreciate you. We'll talk to you soon.
Bye, everybody.